morning treats, and we are glad to tell you that we are back with another guest on the program, on the second segment of the program. And the guest is Mr. Femi Ayondoku. He is a lawyer, and he will be looking at or discussing APC governor's outburst on Naira swap. That is, it's all about issues surrounding Naira swap, and it's the current issue that is going on in Nigeria aside fuel crisis. And my partner is here with me, Babatunde Bolatito, and we are going to do justice to, we are going to question Barrister Femi Ayondoku on this very particular topic we are looking at today. Barrister, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Program. Let's start with Naira swap or Naira crisis. That is starting from the redesigning to swapping and to some other issues concerning it. That is the policies behind both the crisis and the swapping.
Okay.
What do you think? What are the effects of the Naira redesign and swapping on the Nigerian economy?
Well, first one must note that redesigning of the Naira, swapping of the Naira, whatever economic realities that have to do with those things that relate to the Naira are monetary policy. There are genres of monetary policy.
Okay.
And that lies within the exclusive preserve of the central bank governor by reason of the Central Bank Act that empowers him to act in that respect. One other thing you must note, secondly, is that issues that relate with currency, that relate to monetary policies, are not on the concurrent legislative list on which both the state and national assembly can legislate. It is on the exclusive list on which only the National Assembly can legislate, and by extension, federal government, not state government, can take decisions that relate to monetary policy. We must understand that straight away. Now, going directly to answering your question.
Yes.
The effect it could have on our economy is that it brings in money that is largely out of the banking system.
Okay.
Monies in the banking system enable the CBN to regulate the economy within a given national sphere. It helps the central bank, the regulatory body, the central bank, to also control the inflow and outflow of money. It also helps the central bank, because that's one of the functions of the central bank, to control inflation, to take measures that will be able to regulate inflation. Another thing it does is that it has a lot to do with ensuring security in the peculiar circumstances of our country, where you have armed banditry, okay? You have a rise in kidnapping, insurgency, and terrorism, and all those malefactors are looking for is money, okay? Now, you are better able to trace the money, follow the money, okay? If you have a policy like Emefiele, CBN is doing now, okay? Because every transaction, what they are trying to do is to ensure that every transaction passes through some payment systems that is linked to the banking system, to the central bank, such that if you spend 5 naira buying a bottle of Coke, okay, it is on record somewhere that you spent 5 naira buying. If you patronize a prostitute, okay, and pay the prostitute 1,000 naira, it passes through the system. Okay.
And it is on record that
you did. That's why most Nigerians abroad, when they want to do such stuff, they don't do it abroad.
Okay.
They say they're on vacation in Nigeria. Okay. They come back home here, and they can mess around with money. Because if you mess around with money abroad, you buy a bottle of Coke. Over there, prostitution is legal. I'm just using that as an example.
Yes.
In many European countries, it's legal.
Yes.
And the lady is registered on some portal.
Yes.
So if you patronize her, and you can't find cash to pay her, and you pay her with your bank transfer, it rings somewhere that you patronize a social sex worker, whatever they call it. Okay, and then they know.
Oh, that's why the government is now bringing in the cashless policy.
One of the reasons. Another one is banditry, armed banditry. If you pay some armed bandits to secure your release from some kidnap event, okay, it passes through some payment systems that ends up in the banking system, in the CBN. So they know who is collecting what. Who you send to go and collect it, they know who the person is. Use the ATM, they can see you at the ATM. Your biometrics is at the ATM.
Yes.
Go across over the counter, they can see you even more. You sign some papers, So it makes it difficult for armed bandits to call in cash. Kidnappers will find it more difficult to call in cash. Okay. Terrorists will find it more difficult to call in cash. And then the things
corruption
we do,
and bribery.
I'm coming to that. The things we do with money, I've made an example of prostitution, for instance, that has a negative effect on our moral standing as society and our social standing will be largely curbed, because as you spend that money, everybody sees where it's going, and money that is spent on corruption. Okay, when the bell rings in the company or in the government office, and they begin to follow the money, they will see somebody receive some money from somewhere, and they will then be asking, even if you don't put in the narrative part of your banking app, they will ask you, why did you send this money to this person? You will have something to say, and what you have to say will be examined, and what you say will determine how the law handles you. And to the big masquerade, it has a lot to do with ensuring the integrity of the coming elections. Okay, because you see, over time, there have been apprehensions, given our past experience, that politics in this environment, in this country, elections in this country are largely monetized.
Yes.
Okay, the votes go to, as it were, the highest bidder. Okay, now, if you will spend the money only if you have it in cash. Okay, you can't begin to transfer to. It makes it easy to not catch you, because the investigation agency will follow the money, will trace the money. Okay, so the politicians are really seriously, political bandits, because now when you're talking about banditry these days, now you have political bandits, those who are vehemently against this cash swap for political reasons, negative political reasons. You have armed bandits, you have economic bandits. There are three types of banditry trending in Nigeria now: political banditry, armed banditry, economic banditry. Political banditry have to do with politicians who want cash at all costs to be able to buy votes and influence that negatively. Armed banditry, we all know them for some time. Economic bandits, we know them. They corrupt people in the office place, in the government office, in the private sector. Okay, so this policy, monetary policy, is targeted, as stated by the president in his address 1 or 2 days ago, at dealing with these forms of banditry.
Yes, there have been reactions to the presidential broadcast.
Yes.
On the Naira swap. Governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, came up to say certain things. He even went to the extent of saying that the president has been misled, adding that there is likely to be a coup or something like that. He was on TV and radio saying it. And when one listens to that, one will discover that the degree of pain this inflicts on different kind of people, our degree of pain inflicted on people are different. People are hit from different angles. But because of Naira swap, to say that the president has been overpowered and that it's a ploy to bring in interim government and this and that. As a lawyer, does it not sound treasonable?
Thank you very much. Well, it does, okay, because over time, if you look at Nigeria's political history, 80% of the time when you have had the military intervene in political governance, it had always been traceable to civilian political actors who go to the military. These are proven facts when you read those books written by military men and all that. Who go to the military and tell them, look, pick up your gun, take over government, for whatever reason, but many times for selfish reasons, because those civilian political actors also want something from the government that they do not deserve. Okay, so they now use the military men, as a front to take over the reins of government, to perpetuate their inimical interests. Okay, so that has happened over time. Now, going to looking at what Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna State had said, you will discover that it is outside his powers to have said that. It does not belong to his mouth to say that. It is beyond his state responsibilities to say that. It is not the duty of a government to, take decisions, a governor, to take decisions on monetary policy. Okay, that lies within the exclusive preserve of the federal legislature and by extension, to an extent, the federal government. And the central governor has a lot of independent powers. He wields a lot of independent powers as central bank governor under the CBN Act to take monetary policies that will ensure the well-being of the economy of the nation. So for El-Rufai to be saying that it is out of place, it does not belong to him to say that. It is out of his powers as a state governor to venture into such matters. And of course, he said things that are not expected of a state governor. He said, oh, the Kaduna State people, I watched that video myself, they can go on and spend whichever money. That what the president has said, what the CBN governor has said, belongs to the trash bin, That is certainly illegal. It is unlawful, and the one would expect that by now, okay, though he has immunity, but one would expect that's no reason why the DSS should not, be talking to him now. That's no reason why the NIA should not be talking to him now. Okay, because the things he has said, are capable of setting the country on fire. Okay, they're capable of setting the country on fire. When he belonged to the kitchen cabinet of the president at that time, he wasn't saying all this.
Okay.
Now that he's out in the cold because of certain political configurations that have changed position, now he's speaking, as it were, for the Talakawas.
And one will infer that maybe the man is using that as a mean of getting position in after election position. Well,
the point I have personally taken note of, looking at the facts and figures since this national swap thing began. I'm not a politician. I don't carry the card of employer. I'm known to be apolitical. By my views, okay, it would appear that the APC appears more stung by this cash swap thing than all the other political parties. And certainly it is in the public space that El-Rufai, works seriously in the APC to which he belongs for the ascendancy to power of one of the top contenders, Tinubu, for the presidency. Okay, so you can put 2 and 2 together, and then the two add up to let you know that when these governors, APC governors who went to the Supreme Court, who are screaming blue murder about these currency swap things, when they talk, the discerning know that it's not just about the people, it's about their selfish political ends.
Should they go? Should they start a case from the Supreme Court?
Well, that is in the realm of what is legal. I do not want to comment on that now, because that would run against the ethics of my profession. To which, and that says that when the matter is in court, as much as possible, you should refrain from commenting on it. If a decision had now been given, we can then explain that decision to whatever extent that is dissent that we want to. But I can say, from the law books, this has nothing to do with the decision of the Supreme Court that is being awaited, I think on the 22nd or so, they will hear the matter. From the law books, only when there is something called original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, that means you can walk into the Supreme Court straight away and start a case.
Okay.
It is only allowed where a state government has some point to contend with the federal government. Not in an instance of this nature, which has to do with the individual. Okay, this currency swap thing is not a matter that has to do strictly with Kaduna State. For instance, I can tell you one. The other time when Obasanjo was in government, these days he screams blue mother about measures he omitted to take while he was president. Okay, which is sidestepped. Now he screams blue mother. That's another story for another day. But at that time, Obasanjo put his feet down and denied Lagos State of revenue belonging to Lagos State. What did Lagos State government do? Lagos State government went straight to the Supreme Court. Oh, XYZ amount belongs to us as our state revenue. The president is keeping it away from us for no reason. Tell the Supreme Court why you are doing that. Okay, that is an instance where a state is allowed to go to law against the federal government straight to the Supreme Court, but not in this type of instance where they say, oh, the people are going through so much suffering. Fundamental enforcement proceedings are there. The decision of a federal high court can bind the president. The decision of the federal high court can bind the CBN. In fact, the federal high court, one of the reasons it is set up for its exclusive jurisdiction is to take matters that involve the central bank. So you don't have to go to the Supreme Court. That's what I know about it presently. We will await what the Supreme Court says about that. But I can also tell you, that there are certain decisions or hearings that are called public policy decisions, public policy hearings. If you had the privilege to look at the response off record and on record of the Supreme Court at the last hearing, you will see how the mind of their lordships is working on this matter. Okay, they feel for the common people out there on the street. But we know, the discerning know, that these state governors who have gone to the Supreme Court directly have personal interest involved. In fact, security agencies have said something, for instance, about the Zamfara government, about the billions of naira he has, and he's finding it difficult to launder it. And the CBN is saying, we have so much trillions outside the banking system. They know how much money has been printed. They know how much money has been called in. They know how much money that is still out there. For the typical political bandits, which these fellows have turned themselves into. Okay, only a dummy, a dumb person will not know that the reason they want this cash, all cash still is is to be able to induce voters with the money. And that is what the federal government is out to deal with. It's clear in black and white when the president ordered a few days back made the presidential speech on this matter. And interestingly, the National Assembly is not there to do anything. They are all busy seeing how they can be elected.
Yes, my question is, does the president of Nigeria have the constitutional right to overrule the judgment of the Supreme Court especially concerning this issue, that is Naira swap and redesigning of the currency.
Yes.
Does it have the rights to overrule
Well,
the judgment of the Supreme Court, Supremo?
you put a value on the Supreme. Okay. You see, I have read, listened to, and had interaction with arguments made by lawyers of all shades, lawyers who belong to the inner bar, okay, learned silks, and then lawyers who belong to the outer bar, like myself. I'm not a silk, okay, you know, to the effect that the statements of the presidents.
Yes, you are not yet a silk.
I'm not yet a silk, and I don't think I want to be one.
Why?
I do not like to go around, to travel around too much. I live in Osogbo, and it will take a miracle for Osogbo to breathe in Osogbo to sustain that rank of a silk.
Okay.
You know, you know, those who understand, those who know, know. Yes. So see, they are saying a lot of learned silks and fellows at the outer bar are saying that the effect of the president's statements a few days back on the Supreme Court preservative order is that it overruled the president. I disagree. Okay? Because you see, CBN makes monetary policy. They consult bankers too. They have maybe once in a month or once in 3 months, a quarter. They have a meeting, monetary policy committee, whatever. That's why they take all these small decisions. Okay, you know, it is not the president who does that. It is the CBN governor who does that. Okay, the president can advise. The president can make a move to influence the decision of the central bank governor, but the decision of the central bank governor is his sole decision. That office is a powerful office under the CBN Act 2007. Okay, only that, you know, he knows that, like Pirelli will say, people make tires. Okay, they will say power is nothing without control. So the CBN governor will not want to exercise his powers without consulting other bankers, without consulting the appointing authority vis-a-vis the president himself. But the president is not solely responsible for that decision. It is the CBN governor who is responsible for that decision. Okay, and CBN is not a party to the action before the Supreme Court. You know, the CBN is not sued. So that order, that preservative order, does not affect the CBN. It does not bound the CBN. The CBN governor is not bound to treat, to deal with that order by the Supreme Court. Because you see, if you are not a party to an action, okay, the decision
does not
emanating from that action does not affect you. It is not what in law will call an in-rem decision. It is not to the whole world. Okay, it is impersonal. It has to do with the parties who are in the case. Okay,
who are parties in the case.
Yes, the CBN is not party in the case. And if they spend money this way, spend money this way, he is simply saying so from. He has the CBN governor. Yes, what is your decision on this matter? You know, the president is the head of the executive, of which the CBN, the law has said for some purposes, is an agent of the executive. He is simply echoing the Supreme Court. That would be stretching matters too far, you know, in my own very personal opinion, and with respect to those who say differently. Okay, that's how I see it.
I like your dispassionate analysis of this matter.
Well, I'm a citizen like you. You know, I don't know, you could even be richer than me as you sit here. You know, I can't have 120 naira in my pocket, cash. Okay.
Yes,
I have survived.
Nigerians have reacted rather violently to this naira swap that has likely that has almost taken off the naira from every pocket because of the non-availability of the new naira notes, and it is biting hard on every family, I must confess. As a Nigerian, I want you to talk as a Nigerian now, not as a lawyer, because your view as a lawyer will be directly from the law books.
Yes, now.
But this time,
Constitution.
But now you will be talking like a Nigerian. Do we have an end to this crisis? When do we have an end to this crisis?
Well, if you look at the timelines that have been set by the principal parties concerned, the president has set his timeline. One timeline is April 10th.
Yes.
Okay. Another timeline set by the CBN is end of June, month of June. Okay. Now, the one set by the CBN says by the end of June, you cannot take those notes, old notes, to the bank again. Okay, it won't be accepted. Okay, you have now between now and the end of June to take your billions.
Okay.
You worked out for them, didn't you? They belong to you. Take them to central bank. We just want it in the system. They are between now and June to do that. Now, for you and I, typical citizens on the street, we have till April 10th to keep spending 200 naira. You know, it's some money. You know, when you gather it together. Okay, yes. So it's like a palliative for the people. Okay, but I would like to take us back. This naira swap thing, this monetary policy that relates to the new naira is not a new thing. Months back, the CBN have been trumpeting this. You know, cashless policy is not a new thing. Months back, the CBN have been trumpeting this. Recently, the governor of the CBN, Emefiele, had to go on vacation, and I had some online, on-air broadcaster in some sister radio station in Osogbo here, daily criticizing Emefiele when I listen in the morning to their what the papers say. Daily criticizing Emefiele for going on leave. How could he go on leave at that time? She does not realize or has not thought deeply enough to know that in all this, Emefiele had the principal target. Okay. He had to go away on a forced leave for the safety of his life. And, you know, he couldn't bear the unbearable pressure being put on him to do something about this issue of naira swap. Interested, powerful political forces were heavy on him. Till this morning, in what the papers say, somebody still clamor for the removal of Emefiele. Okay, you know. So why won't you go on a forced leave? You know, when DSS received a petition against him that he's supporting terrorism, so they were going to arrest him. So the guy had to go on a forced leave. You know, and by the time he was coming back, it was the military that became his security personnel. They were there at Central Bank. You know, so the DSS fellow and the policeman who will come and arrest Emefiele with the military, with a armor tank in his office, we will see who that fellow really would be. You know, so that's how these things operate. It's been on for some time, and you see when Emefiele attends meetings of central bankers world over, they look at him and ask him, you know, when is this cashless policy coming on stream in your country? Nigeria. It's drawing us back. The truth of the matter is that talking about the world economy, that is where it is going to. Cashless policy, you know. And I say this on a very, very private note. I'm a Christian, I'm a pastor. I know what the Bible says about end time prophecy. We are going to have a one world government. We are going to have a one world economy that will make it easier for the Antichrist, anywhere he is, to determine how you spend 1 naira in your account. And that's where we are really going to. The internet is also for the same place, same reason. You know, the world has become a global village now. Yes. By the reason of www, the hyperlink, you know, you can get anybody anywhere. And now we have 5G, 10 times faster than 4G. Yes. You know, don't tell me the network is bad. No, it is good. Because they will see your face, see your family, and they can control you from Jerusalem or anywhere it would be. So all these things are really working towards that end. So anyone complain or not, cashless policy is the way the world economy is going. That's the direction. You know.
Ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa láti bí ìṣẹ́jú díẹ̀ láti sọ̀rọ̀ pẹ̀lú amòfin Fẹ́mi Àyàndòkun. Ohun tá a sì ń sọ ni báwọn gómìnà ẹgbẹ́ òṣèlú APC bí wọ́n ṣe tako àyípadà owó náírà tí ìjọba àpapọ̀ àti báńkì àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ ń ṣe ní kò pẹ́ kò jìnnà yìí. Àti sọ lédè ìbò ṣùgbọ́n pẹ̀lú ìṣẹ́jú péréte tó kù yìí náà a lè fi sọ Yorùbá. Ẹ já wo báwọn gómìnà ẹgbẹ́ òṣèlú APC bí wọ́n ṣe tako àgbékalẹ̀ yìí kí lẹ́nu kó wà ní ẹ̀.
ẹ ṣe olóòtú tá a bá lọ nípa àwọn ohun tí ń gbọ́ àti àwọn ohun tí ojú ń kà nínú ìyẹn ojú mákọlùmí nínú ìwé ìròyìn àti àkọọ́lẹ̀ lóríṣiríṣi níbi ìgbà díẹ̀ sẹ́yìn a rí i wípé kì í ṣètòrí ìfẹ́ àwọn ènìyàn ni àwọn gómìnà wọ̀nyẹn ló ṣe ń sá ọ̀wọ̀ kiri wípé àwọn ò fẹ́ gbèdéke owó tuntun nítorí ìfẹ́ ara wọn ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wọn ló ti kó pamọ́ kì í ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ ẹni mo kàn sọ àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ tí a ti kà nínú ìwé tá a sì gbọ́ ní rédíò àti móhùnmáwòrán ni mo ń sọ yìí o wọ́n fẹ́ fi owó ra ìbò àwọn ènìyàn wọ́n sì ti kówó yẹn pamọ́ sílé bí ibà débi wípé nígbà tí olórí oko ní báńkì àpapọ̀ ilẹ̀ yìí wá ní àgbà àwọn 1,000 àti 500 yìí mọ́ àwọn ẹ̀ ló sì ga jù ní ìpele owó tá a ní ló bá dùn wọ́n dé egun wípé owó táwọn ti bá ti kó pamọ́ yìí pé àwọn èèrà ìbò kí làwọn ètò àṣẹ báyìí wọ́n lo gbogbo ọ̀nà tí wọ́n lè lò wọ́n mú ẹ̀sùn kan Emefiele tí í ṣe gómìnà báńkì àpapọ̀ pé ń fi owó ìlú ń fi ń ṣe légbè lẹ́yìn àwọn agbésùmọ̀mí ńgbà yẹn pọ̀ títí tí wọ́n tẹ̀ fẹ́ lọ fọlọ́pàá mú wọ́n fi DSS mú ló bá lọ lú èbò olóhùn fẹ́ gba ìsinmi lẹ́nu iṣẹ́ ẹgbẹ́ èèyàn bá sì ń ṣiṣẹ́ tí ń ṣe tí èèyàn ó gbà sinmi ó sì gbà sinmi ó lọ lú èbò nǹkan tí ń ṣe gan ni pé wàhálà wọn ti ń lé kiri lórí ọ̀rọ̀ wọ̀nyí àwọn olóṣèlú wọ̀nyí ó ti pọ̀ jù ló bá kún lọ lú èbò ó ti wá ṣe débi pé wọ́n wá lọ ilé ẹjọ́ gíga jùlọ ní ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà lọ́nà tí ò bẹ́tọ̀ mu láti lè sọ pé kí ilé ẹjọ́ yẹn sọ pé gbèdéke tí Emefiele ìyẹn lórí oko báńkì àpapọ̀ orílẹ̀-èdè wa tó fi sórí 1,500 yìí pé kí ilé ẹjọ́ yẹn kó mú un kúrò ńbẹ̀ ilé ẹjọ́ yẹn ó dájọ́ agbẹjọ́rò ni mí kò bẹ́tọ̀ mu lẹ́nu iṣẹ́ mi kí n mọ̀ sọ pé bóyá báyìí ni ilé ẹjọ́ ti dá o tàbí báyìí nígbà bá dá tán a lè wá yẹ̀wò ṣùgbọ́n nǹkan tó fi sọ gangan tèmi mọ̀ báyìí mo lè sọ yẹn òun ni mo sọ yẹn pé wọ́n lọ ọbẹ̀ yẹn láti lọ sọ pé bóyá kí ilé ẹjọ́ yẹn sọ pé ìjọ báńkì àpapọ̀ ní báńkì àpapọ̀ sì rèé kò sì wá jẹ́ ẹlẹ́jọ́ níwájú ilé ẹjọ́ yẹn débi wípé ṣáàdé fárí lórí ẹ̀yìn olórí orí báńkì àpapọ̀ kò sí ń bẹ̀ ẹ̀rù tàbí àwọn èèyàn wá ní orí ẹ̀ wà ń bẹ̀ orí CBN ò sí inú ẹjọ́ yẹn nígbà orí ẹ̀ ò bá sì sí ń bẹ̀ CBN Supreme Court tó lè má bẹ dání kó fáwọn lórí ń bẹ̀ ni àwọn tó rí wọn bá wà ń bẹ̀ ní ìdájọ́ ilé ẹjọ́ yẹn ló ní í ṣe pẹ̀lú torí náà ó bẹ̀tọ̀ mu fún CBN láti mọ bá lọ bó ṣe lọ bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn ṣùgbọ́n àmọ́ pé ó lè mú ìṣòro ó lè mú ìnilára díẹ̀ bá wa gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọmọ orílẹ̀-èdè ṣùgbọ́n ńgbà míì àmọ́ tìtorí iṣu àìjẹpo àti torí epo náà àìjẹṣu kí gbogbo ẹ̀ lè bára wọn mú ní tá a bá gbà káwọn olóṣèlú wọ̀nyí kọ́ dáwọ́lé old 1,000 àti 500 àtijọ́ yẹn kọ́mọ náà lọ owó yẹn wọ́n fẹ́ lò ó láti fún ẹ̀yin àti èmi ẹni tẹ́bí ń pa tó bá gbé ilé lọ́wọ́ pé gbàlọ́ra búrẹ́dì kò ní mọ̀gbà tí ó bá tí ó tẹ̀ka fún wọn ìyẹn ò sì ràn wá lọ́wọ́ láti àìmọye ọdún láti ń bàbọ̀ lórílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà tọ́rọ̀bù dìbò kó síbẹ̀ dìbò kó ń bó ló bá wá dé nǹkan tó fẹ́ ṣe nìyẹn ṣùgbọ́n tí Ọlọ́run bá ràn wá lọ́wọ́ kí ìbò tó dé tí Emefiele tó rí kíní ẹ̀dìmú tí atẹ́gùn wàhálà àwọn olóṣèlú tí ò fẹ́ lọ tí Buhari náà rí ìdìmú nígbà tó bá kọjá bóyá yóò wà rọrùn díẹ̀.
ẹ ṣeun ẹ̀yin ẹ ṣeun
òṣùpá òyìnbó nípa
kò bá bọ̀
25 yìí ni ó ti dé tán ẹ já dìmú dára kọjọ́ ọ̀la wa kò lè dára.
ohun tí barista àyẹ̀rò fún sọ fún wa ni pé à ń kọlà ní títa ríro báyìí nígbà bá yá yóò dòge fún gbogbo orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà. We want to sincerely thank our guests on the program.
What you do to try to give something back to society.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming, sir.
Thank you for coming.
And we appreciate you for what nobody can learn in the classroom.
No.
That you just explained here this morning.
Thank you very much.
The second guest platform has ended, and Barrister Femi Ajedukum has really educated us on the program, and I know you are better enlightened about the federal government and CBN policy on Naira swap. We go now on a short commercial break. It is not going to be a short one anyway, it's going to be a long one, because 25 minutes is not a short time. Living Above Poverty Organization sponsored segment of Saturday Morning Tweet will come up now, and see you after the segment.
We at NAPO are committed to poverty eradication. We equally believe that the battle against poverty requires the effort of everyone.
In NAPO, we believe that poor people can make a difference in their lives. We believe that people are the singular most important asset of any family, any society, any nation. And that if you invest in people, definitely the nation would be better for it as well.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another enlightening edition of Bridging the Gap. I'm Patience Nwanna, your host on this program. Bridging the Gap comes to you from Lift Above Poverty Organization, LAPO. And in LAPO, we are very, very passionate about women and children. In fact, maternal and child health happens to be one of our program focus, one of our program areas in LAPO. And so on the program this morning, we are going to be talking about the problems of maternal and child health care in Nigeria. And we know that in Nigeria we still have very high maternal and child mortality rates. So we are going to be talking about the challenge of maternal and child mortality care in Nigeria and the way forward. And to have this discussion with me this morning, I have Dr. Emmanuel Osekede. Doctor, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you, madam. It's a great privilege to have me here. And today we're going to be looking at the problems of maternal and child health in Nigeria and also the way forward.
So Dr. Osekede is from Bini Medical Care, and with him, like you've heard from him, we are going to be talking about this very, very important issue on the problems of maternal and child health care in Nigeria. But we are going to take the LAPO message, and when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion. Please stay with us. Welcome back from LAPO message. One of the most important tools in life is information, and information is essential for change. So doctor, let's go straight to our questions. What do we actually mean by problems of maternal and child health in Nigeria?
First, in order to look at the problems of maternal and child health, let us look at what maternal and child health means. Maternal and child health simply means health care given to a woman during pregnancy, labor, and after delivery, and the healthcare given to a child, especially under 5. This is because under 5 is very, very sensitive, and we discovered that a lot of children do not get to celebrate their 5th year birthday because of the problems we are going to be looking at. And there are different components of maternal health, which includes skilled birth attendants, which must be on ground at all times, and also an enabling environment to take care of pregnancy and labor, and also the immediate care of the newborn, and also an efficient and reliable referral system to where care can be accessed promptly.
Okay, let's look at the current situation on maternal and child mortality. The rates, how is it in Nigeria?
Well, the rate of maternal mortality has been on the increase for decades now, and to complicate issues with the recent pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, has shifted our attention from our already existing problems to the new challenge of the virus. Well, in order not to digress, let us go back to look at what these challenges have been. We cannot look at these challenges without first ascertaining the causes of maternal mortality. Maternal mortality is the death of a pregnant woman during pregnancy, during labor, or immediately after pregnancy, within 42 days of delivery, irrespective of the size of pregnancy, and not just from incidental or accidental causes. Now, the causes could either be direct or indirect. Now, take a look at the direct causes of maternal mortality. Some of these causes of death are actually avoidable if the right things are put in place. Some of these causes include hemorrhage. Hemorrhage is the first and the highest cause of maternal mortality. And it saddens to know that maternal mortality, it has been on the top list of the death. And Africa, especially Nigeria, contributes about 90 to 95% of maternal mortality. It saddens to know that out of every 100,000 live deaths in Nigeria a year, about 1,100 women die for pregnancy and pregnancy-related complications. And these deaths actually could be avoidable if the right things are put in place. And only about one out of 20 children die before they get to their 5th year birthday. And these are preventable deaths. Causes of these deaths include pneumonia, birth injuries, birth asphyxia leading to cerebral palsy, malaria, and acute watery diarrhea.
Are you saying that malaria is also a cause of death for these children?
Yes, malaria is a cause. It's a very significant cause. Even if we've reduced our awareness and jingles all about malaria, it's still a significant cause of death. Never forget that not all people can actually access care. We still have people living in rural areas, and the amount only reduced in people living in urban areas because of, one, the awareness and the know-how.
Okay, please, let's say you talked about the rural areas. Now I would like us to let's look at the rural and urban areas. What is the situation? How is it like?
Well, the situations in this place is, first of all, inequalities of the distribution of healthcare workers. Professional healthcare workers are not evenly distributed, and of course we all know why. Majority of healthcare workers wants to live in urban centers because of provision of more social amenities and accessibility to education and other bonuses which accompanies the rural life. Not very many wants to stay in rural environment, and this is what the government is supposed to do, because we discover that majority of deaths takes place in the rural place, and these deaths are unaccounted for and unrecordable. One, because of poor professional health care, poor enabling environment, poor referral systems, and also proximity of health care to these people, and also lack of formal educations and knowledge.
Okay, so we are already going into the challenges
Exactly.
of accessing this healthcare, that's the quality healthcare now for women. So can you just enumerate on that?
Okay, like I said when I was discussing the challenges of healthcare system, apart from hemorrhage, which I talked earlier, other causes could include infections.
Okay.
Not everybody are aware of post-puerperal period, meaning the period immediately after childbirth. Infection could be another challenging factors, and it contributes about 15% of deaths. Also, obstructed labor is another cause, and that's why I talked about prompt referral system, especially in rural areas. First of all, these rural areas are not efficient in referring patients to where they can get accessible and professional healthcare service. So a lot of patients die because of failure of prompt referral systems. And also, abortion is also a significant cause, owing to the fact that our laws are not in keeping with abortions. So majority of abortions take place in Nigeria. No doubt we cannot turn a blind eye to that. But we should also know that majority of people doing this are actually incompetent. They're actually quacks because of the restrictions. And when this happens, we discover that before they are referred to tertiary centers where they can get professional cares, the infection has set into sepsis and overwhelming, and so care could be impaired and prompt attention could not be assessed.
Okay, can we look at the barriers to safe motherhood in Nigeria? What are some of the barriers?
Some of the barrier systems include poor education. We have a lot of unproductive population in Nigeria, I must confess. And because of lack of education, one cannot easily access care, who to meet for care. And you discover that especially in rural areas, we have unprofessionals giving health advice. We've had a situation where patient comes in and already in labor, labored for up to 2 days. And they took advice from neighbors and people staying around to tell them to wait, it's going to come. And we discover these people, by the time they get to meet us, they're already at the verge of the other side. So these are what we keep talking about. Formal education, we need to up our games. And this is where the government must come in. There must be political will, no matter how much is being signed on paper to help eradicate maternal and child death. Little is still being done. There's lack of political will. Advocacy is minimal. And we know when a politician decides to push for a particular program or push for a policy, it only comes into play because of their political will, unlike every other stakeholders. Also, lack of maternal services, social amenities like transportation, proximity to these hospitals are lacking. We find a referral system, patients could be on their way for an hour and two. Why? Because of bad roads. So these are what is lacking. Lack of communication system is another barrier to safe motherhood and child health care. Also, lack of blood transfusion system. You know, I talked about maternal hemorrhage occurring during pregnancy or even during labor. We have poor blood transfusion services, and this is another factor to this is because there's minimal population donating blood. Blood drive awareness is still minimal, whether we like it or not. So because of this, we find it difficult to access blood care services. So women may die even when they get care. We are unable to give them blood, which they are losing. So they may die from this. Another important factor to note is lack of the provision of social amenities, which I talked earlier. Of course, if we have good road services, it could also help to mitigate against poor referral system. Also, family planning. Family planning is the ability to space the children. If we are able to space the gap or allow couples to decide how many children they want to have, and also the spacing between them, it could help us to prevent unplanned pregnancy and help this family save enough money to cater for the children they want to have.
Okay, can we also look at this factor, the cultural factor? How does this add up to having this high maternal mortality rate in Nigeria? The cultural factor.
Basically, Nigeria is a very religious country and also a traditional country.
Yes.
And this has, one way or the other, impaired adequate health care. Let me first of all talk about the religion aspect. A lot of women now get advice from their religious leaders instead of professionals. And we find this happening all the time. And we have to, as a matter of fact, I've had a fair experience, which I'm going to share. I ended up convincing a pastor to allow a woman go for a cesarean section instead of the woman. This is because she had hold firm to the faith, which both she and the pastor believes in, that no woman should go through cesarean section and she should deliver just like the Hebrew women. And of course, I read my Bible very well, and there's no particular place in the scripture which states the mode of delivery of these Hebrew women. So religious come to take a very significant part. As a matter of fact, it's another cause of maternal mortality, because these women reject advice from healthcare professionals and decide to obey their pastor. So if we are going to mitigate against the problems facing maternal and child deaths, we are going to also have to bring this set of problem into play. Another thing, the religion aspect, the traditional aspect, for the traditional aspect, a lot of people hold firm to beliefs, and they get their advice from their aged parents or mother-in-law, father-in-laws. This is because of the tradition. Some believe that a woman should not run to the hospital. A woman should not scream during labor. A woman should deliver at home. There's no point going to the hospital. The hospital are going to give you episiotomy, of course, which is cut to give way for the child to pass, if need be. So they hold on to this belief, and this has caused a lot of problem. When they come to us eventually, it's either we are delivering a flat baby, of course, which will eventually lead to cerebral palsy and neurological impairment, or we are even trying to save the mother.
Yes, I think I really agree with you on that. The aspect of tradition has really hindered progress on maternal and child health care, because there was this experience I had some time ago when I had my son, and this notion of using water, giving water to babies before 6 months, is really the tradition does not accept it. So a lot of women were coming there, a lot of mothers coming, and traditional women coming to say, no, don't listen to those doctors. Why will you not? What is exclusive breastfeeding? What do you mean by that? Give the baby water. The baby needs water. The baby needs water. Immediately the baby is even born, you have to give water. Things like that is really contrary to what we are being told during our antenatal care sessions, that our babies should not be given water. They should be fed with breast milk exclusively for 6 months. Yeah. Okay, so let's take the basis of LAPO, and when we come back, we will continue.
My name is Stella Victor Ego. My shop is in number 1, Abba Street, in Transebu, in a local government. I joined LAPO in the year 2010 when I lost my husband and there was no hope. So my leader introduced me to LAPO. I joined them. They started us with token money of 30,000. And the money seemed to be $1 million for me, in the sense that time there was no hope for me for survival. So I was using the money, progressing, and they started adding. So since that time, I've been with LAPO, and LAPO has been helping me. I've been able to pay my children's school fees. I've been doing everything possible, which I thought that time that I cannot do. With the help of LAPO, things has been moving so fine and good to me. Surprisingly, my daughter is one of the beneficiaries of scholarship this year, 2019. And even in my union, benefiting LAPO, insurance, even childbirth beneficiaries, they have been obtaining them without any problem. So I love LAPO too much. I will never leave LAPO unless when I am well established to stay on my own. And I have been trying my best to make sure I encourage people to join LAPO. I haven't seen any microfinance bank. Why? I believe what they told us, that LAPO is Gidiban. When you are in LAPO, no wave, no storm will carry you. Unless when you are not faithful. Unless when you don't use the money for business. Before you will regret the money. Before you will not pay the money. By the grace of God, I've been collecting the money, repairing it accordingly without any stress. So I am supporting LAPO with everything for me. I will no longer pay school fees for my child. This time, he paid, and he said that my daughter should live in the dormitory, which my daughter has been. I know how stressful it has been on me. He just removed the burden on me. So I am very, very grateful. I'm saying, may God bless the director and bless also the members and the officials of the LAPO. In Jesus' name, amen.
Welcome back from Faces of LAPO. every entrepreneur wants to run, in fact, wants to own a very successful and highly profitable business. But most times, oftentimes, the issue of finance, the challenge of finance is there. And so we encourage you to take advantage of the Lapo Microfinance Bank, the offer that they have. We encourage you to walk into any of their offices, walk into any of their the Lapo Microfinance offices, and there the issue of funding for your business will be sorted out. Doctor, let's quickly look at the way forward. We've been talking so far. We've been talking about the problems of maternal and child health care in Nigeria, and we've said here that for Nigeria we have a very poor maternal and child mortality indices in Nigeria, where we have about 1,100 maternal deaths for every 100,000 live births. In fact, it's really this situation calls for urgent attention. Really calls for urgent attention, because it is really disheartening to note that most of these deaths are actually preventable. Okay, doctor, let's quickly go over to our way forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Just like the presenter said, most of these deaths could actually be avoidable if we put the right things on check. Of note, I've talked about some of the way forward, but I'm going to put them in capital letter. One of the way forward is formal education. Nigeria has a very huge population, and I must tell you, the majority of the population are unproductive. And this is because we lack basic formal education. There's a lot of problem education solves for us. Education will tell us when to get care, will give us the food to eat, because nutritional anemia is another significant cause of maternal and child death. And even protein energy malnutrition is another cause of death in under 5 and even beyond. So education will tell us the food, will give us an idea of what food to eat, and also education will put us in the map of where to get good jobs, increase standard of living, increase socio-economic status in the society, and this will invariably solve a lot of problem. Apart from education, also we want to get prompt care to medical facility. This has to be in place, such as there should be proximity to healthcare. We find the situation whereby, especially this occurs especially in rural to urban areas. When we refer patients from rural facility to urban area, we discover that the proximity to where they get care is too long. Imagine we refer a patient from rural areas and he has to travel thousands of kilometers to get care in tertiary institutions, and majority of these tertiary institutions are located, bunch of it are located in the urban centers. So the distance from the rural to these urban centers is too long, and majority of death occurs within this period of delay, and this is something we need to bridge. Another thing is even distribution of medical professionals. One way to do this is to provide incentives and bonuses to healthcare professionals residing in rural areas. Of course, I will not want to go and stay in rural areas because of the things I perceived I'm going to miss. If my child may not get adequate education as I want to give them, as it's available in the urban center, I will not want to practice in rural areas. But if government comes up with incentives, for example, my salary is 50,000 naira, and you're asking me to practice in rural areas, and I'm giving 100,000 naira or 80,000 naira, I think that will, in a way, have a role to play, and I might decide to continue medical practice in rural areas. So even distribution of healthcare workers with incentives and bonuses should be put in place by the government and other stakeholders. Also, provision of maternal services, blood transfusion services. These are very important services that should be available. A lot of women die from hemorrhages, and this could actually be preventable. Some of them die because there are no availability of blood. There's little the healthcare professional could do in such circumstances, because blood loss requires replacement, and when these are not available, it can lead to maternal mortality.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doctor, for spending time with us today on the program.
Thank you very much.
Some of the programs and the policies developed by the government can actually help to improve the quality of maternal and child healthcare in Nigeria. But to achieve this goal, the government must make a firm commitment to provide adequate resources be it skilled workers or skilled or trained workers and providers, be it up-to-date equipment, and most importantly, sufficient funding for the healthcare sector to be able to end the endless and the needless deaths associated with childbirth in Nigeria. That's where we'll draw the curtain for today on the program. We would love to hear from you. Please send us text messages or call us on any of our numbers. You can also reach us on or follow us on social media, and you can also visit us at our office, at our head office at number 18 Johnson Road, Benin City. See we come your way. Bye bye.
Yes, it is on the note that we shall be calling it a day on today's edition of the program, Saturday Morning Treat. On behalf of the executive producer, Akinola Wolabi, and the producer, Michael Adidi, and all others who are here from the VTR, MCR, TriCaster end, and the cameraman who is on duty this morning, and the transmission director, all of us say good morning and have a very rollicking weekend. Babatunde Bolatito is my name. On behalf of my partner on the program, Olubumi Ajiboye Agbola, I say good morning, have a nice weekend.
As a people with one song, with one voice, we're a nation undivided.